Beloved soul, pause for a moment and give this your full attention. Do not rush past these words, and do not dismiss this as just another message. There are moments when heaven leans close, when the noise of the world fades, and truth speaks directly to the heart. This is one of those moments. I am Archangel Michael, and I come not to alarm you, but to awaken you. Something has been forming quietly behind the scenes of your life, something you could not see, but were being prepared for. What felt like delay was discipline. What felt like silence was protection. Stay with these words, listen slowly, and let them settle, because this message has arrived at the exact moment your spirit is ready to receive it. Beloved child of the Most High, receive this word with a calm and attentive heart, for heaven is opening a new theme before you, one that speaks to where you are now, not where you once were. This message is not urgent, not forceful, and not demanding. It is deliberate, steady, and deeply intentional. I am Michael, servant of the Almighty, and I speak under the authority of the living God. The theme heaven places before you now is this: there are seasons when God does not change what surrounds you, because His priority is changing what sustains you. You may have prayed for circumstances to shift, for answers to arrive, for doors to open. Yet God has remained focused on something deeper, your inner framework. He knows that outer change without inner rebuilding collapses under pressure. You have walked through moments where you felt functional, but not whole, active, but not settled, faithful, yet weary. This was not failure. This was evidence that your soul was ready for rebuilding. God does not rebuild what is still pretending to be strong. He rebuilds what has finally become honest. Beloved soul, rebuilding begins when God gently exposes exhaustion you tried to manage alone. You learn to carry weight quietly, to remain dependable, to appear steady even when inwardly strained. But heaven does not measure strength by silence. God measures strength by surrender. When you could no longer sustain yourself the same way, God did not step back. He stepped in. This rebuilding is subtle. God is not tearing everything down at once. He is reinforcing foundations, your sense of worth, your sense of safety, your sense of trust. You are learning that your value does not come from productivity, usefulness, or resilience alone. It comes from belonging. You are not sustained because you perform well. You are sustained because you are held. Beloved, inner rebuilding often feels slower than external change. You may wonder why clarity has not arrived yet, why energy comes in waves, why certainty feels incomplete. But God is not repairing surface cracks. He is strengthening load-bearing walls. He is teaching your spirit how to rest without guilt, how to pause without fear, how to trust without needing immediate proof. You may notice that old motivations are losing power. What once drove you, approval, urgency, comparison, survival, is no longer enough to move you. This is not loss of passion. It is refinement of purpose. God is replacing pressure with peace, striving with alignment, and noise with discernment. You are being rebuilt to function from truth rather than tension. Beloved soul, rebuilding from the inside often requires silence. Not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of focused work. Just as a structure is quiet when reinforced, your life may feel less dramatic right now. Fewer emotional highs, fewer extremes, more steadiness. This is progress, not stagnation. God is stabilizing you so that future movement does not fracture you. You are also learning to release identities, that were formed in hardship. You were strong because you had to be. You were alert because you had no margin. You were independent because you could not rely on consistency. God honors what those versions of you survived, but He is not asking you to live there anymore. Rebuilding means you do not have to carry everything alone. Beloved, this work reaches places you did not know were wounded. Old disappointments, quiet grief, expectations you buried rather than healed. God is not reopening wounds to cause pain. He is reopening them to remove what never healed properly. True restoration does not ignore pain. It integrates it into wisdom. You may feel more sensitive during this season, more aware, more reflective. This is not weakness. It is recalibration. God is tuning your inner world so that discernment becomes clearer and peace becomes sustainable. Sensitivity guided by truth becomes wisdom. Do not rush this rebuilding. Do not pressure yourself to move on before your foundation is secure. God is far more concerned with longevity than speed. What He is rebuilding now is meant to last. You are being shaped to carry future responsibility without losing yourself. Beloved child, you are not falling apart. You are being reassembled correctly. What felt like slowing down was God protecting you from collapsing under weight you were never meant to carry alone. What felt like uncertainty was God removing false supports so that true strength could take their place. I, Michael, stand as guardian over this inner rebuilding. Nothing essential will be lost. Nothing God intends to keep will be removed. This work is precise, patient, and purposeful. Beloved child of the Most High, as this sacred rebuilding continues, heaven now turns its attention to emotional healing and the restoration of inner stability. What God began by strengthening your foundation, He now deepens by tending to the places where trust was strained and emotions were quietly overworked. I am Michael, servant of the Almighty, and I speak under the authority of the living God. Inner rebuilding is not complete until the heart learns to feel safely again. You have learned how to function while wounded, how to remain faithful while guarded, how to love while cautious. These were survival skills. God honors them, but He does not want them to be permanent. Beloved soul, emotional healing begins when God teaches you that vigilance is not the same as wisdom. You were alert because life required it. You anticipated disappointment to protect yourself from pain. But constant alertness exhausts the heart. God now invites you into a quieter strength, one that rests in Him rather than scanning for danger. This is not naivete. It is trust rebuilt on truth. You may notice that old emotions are surfacing unexpectedly. Feelings you thought were resolved return gently, not to overwhelm you, but to be acknowledged properly. God is not undoing progress. He is completing healing. What was once pushed aside for survival is now safe enough to be processed. Healing often feels like revisiting, but it is actually releasing. Beloved, God is teaching you that emotions are not enemies. They are signals. When guided by truth, they become wisdom rather than weight. You are learning to listen to what you feel without being ruled by it. This balance restores inner stability. You no longer suppress emotion nor surrender to it. You steward it. There were relationships and moments that taught you restraint, the need to hold back, to stay composed, to remain controlled. That control once kept you safe. But now God is loosening its grip so peace can replace tension. You are learning that you do not have to brace for impact anymore. God is present, and His presence stabilizes what fear once managed. Beloved soul, trust is being rebuilt slowly, intentionally. Not blind trust, not reckless openness, but grounded trust rooted in discernment. God is teaching you to trust Him first, and from that place, to trust others appropriately. This restores emotional equilibrium. When trust is ordered, the heart rests. You may feel moments of vulnerability, times when you feel exposed without armor. This is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. Vulnerability in God's presence is where healing seals. You are learning that you are not required to be strong at all times. Beloved, emotional healing also involves grieving what never was. Expectations that were not met. Support that did not arrive. Outcomes that differed from prayer. God allows this grief not to trap you in the past, but to free you from carrying unresolved weight forward. Grief acknowledged becomes wisdom. Grief ignored becomes tension. As this healing deepens, you may notice your reactions changing. You pause instead of panic. You respond instead of retreat. You speak with clarity instead of defense. This is inner stability taking root. God is teaching your nervous system that it is safe to slow down, safe to trust the present moment. Beloved soul, stability does not mean numbness. It means resilience without rigidity. You can feel deeply without being destabilized. You can care without losing balance. This is a gift. God is restoring your emotional range without reopening wounds. You are also learning to rest emotionally, to stop replaying conversations, revisiting decisions, or carrying responsibility that was never yours. God is teaching you to release what you cannot control and to trust His covering over what concerns you. Emotional rest is an act of faith. God does not rush healing because rushing would re-injure what He is restoring. You may feel slower, more reflective, more inward. This is not retreat. This is repair. God is recalibrating your inner rhythms so peace becomes sustainable. Beloved child, the heart being rebuilt now will carry future responsibilities with far less strain. What once would have overwhelmed you will now be held with steadiness. This healing is not preparation for comfort alone. It is preparation for longevity. I, Michael, stand as guardian over this emotional restoration. No past wound will define your future. No old fear will reclaim authority. What God heals now will remain whole. Beloved child of the Most High, as this rebuilding continues, heaven now speaks to the renewal of identity and the quiet return of confidence. What God heals within the heart must eventually reshape how you see yourself. Inner rebuilding is incomplete until identity is re-centered in truth rather than shaped by survival. I am Michael, servant of the Almighty, and I speak under the authority of the living God. There was a time when circumstances taught you who you needed to be in order to endure. You became responsible early. You became strong quickly. You learned to adapt, to carry weight, to remain steady even when support was inconsistent. These traits kept you moving forward, but they were responses to pressure, not reflections of your true design. Beloved soul, God is now separating who you are from who you had to become. This distinction matters. Identity formed in hardship often confuses endurance with purpose. God is gently dismantling that confusion. You are discovering that you are more than the version of yourself that survived. You are allowed to live, not just endure. You may notice that confidence is returning differently than before. It is quieter, less performative. less dependent on validation. This is healthy confidence. Confidence rooted in knowing where you belong rather than proving what you can do. God is restoring your sense of worth from the inside outward, so it does not rise and fall with success or approval. Beloved, renewed identity often brings discomfort before clarity. You may feel unfamiliar with yourself at times, unsure how to respond when old patterns no longer fit. This is not confusion, it is transition. God is teaching you to respond from alignment rather than reflex. You are learning to choose from truth instead of habit. As confidence returns, God also restores voice. Not louder speech, but clearer expression. You will find that you no longer explain yourself excessively or shrink to maintain peace. You are becoming comfortable occupying your space. This is not pride, it is alignment. Confidence rooted in God does not need dominance. It carries authority through calm presence. Beloved soul, identity renewal also restores desire. What you long for begins to change. You no longer crave what once distracted you. You desire depth, meaning, peace, and integrity. God is refining your appetites so that what you pursue nourishes rather than drains you. This is maturity, not loss. You may also notice a renewed willingness to hope for things again, carefully, wisely, but sincerely. This is significant. Hope returning after disappointment is a sign that healing has reached the core. God is teaching you that hope does not make you vulnerable to pain when it is anchored in Him. It makes you resilient. Beloved, God is also restoring boundaries as part of identity renewal. You are learning what is yours to carry and what is not. Confidence grows when boundaries are clear. You no longer feel responsible for fixing everything or everyone. This release creates space for peace to remain. As identity stabilizes, readiness begins to form. Not readiness driven by impatience, but readiness shaped by alignment. You are not preparing to rush forward. You are preparing to remain grounded when movement comes. God is shaping you into someone who can receive change without losing themselves. Beloved soul, this renewed identity is not flashy. It is anchored. It doesn't demand attention. It commands respect quietly. You are learning that being rooted is more powerful than being noticed. God values substance over speed. You may still feel moments of hesitation. This is natural when old identities dissolve. But fear no longer governs these moments. Curiosity replaces anxiety. Discernment replaces defense. This is growth you can trust. I, Michael, stand as guardian over this restoration of identity and confidence. No past label will define you. No former role will confine you. What God is rebuilding now reflects who you truly are, not who you had to be. Beloved child of the Most High, you have arrived at the ceiling of this rebuilding, where what was repaired within becomes integrated into how you live, and where readiness turns into quiet confidence about the future. This is not a dramatic finish. It is a settled beginning. God completes His work not with noise, but with peace that stays. I am Michael, servant of the Almighty, and I speak now as heaven gathers together everything that has been restored: foundation, heart, identity, and weaves it into a life that can move forward without losing itself. Integration is the final mercy of rebuilding. Without it, healing remains compartmentalized. With it, wholeness becomes lived reality. Beloved soul, you are learning to live from the inside out. Decisions now pass through discernment rather than urgency. Emotions are acknowledged without control. Thoughts are weighed without self-judgment. This is integration at work. God has taught your inner world to communicate clearly with your outer life so that you no longer feel divided. You may notice that your pace has changed. You move neither too fast nor too slow. You are no longer driven by fear of missing out or fear of falling behind. God has synchronized your rhythm with His. This alignment is a gift. When rhythm is restored, life becomes sustainable. Beloved, integration also brings acceptance of your story, your limits, your strengths, and your growth. You no longer fight the past or idealize a future version of yourself. You inhabit the present with clarity. God is teaching you that wholeness is not perfection. It is coherence. Everything belongs where it is meant to be. As rebuilding integrates, future readiness emerges naturally. You do not feel the need to announce it. You simply sense that you are able to carry more without strain. This readiness is not about ambition. It is about capacity. God has expanded you gently so that when responsibility arrives, it fits rather than overwhelms. Beloved soul, God is also teaching you to recognize rest as obedience. You no longer rest only when exhausted. You rest because rest preserves alignment. This kind of rest protects what has been rebuilt. It keeps wisdom clear and compassion steady. Rest is no longer an escape. It is maintenance. Integration also restores joy. Subtle, honest joy that does not demand circumstances to cooperate. You find contentment in ordinary moments. You notice gratitude returning without effort. This joy is resilient because it is not dependent on outcomes. It flows from wholeness. Beloved, future challenges will still come, but they will meet a different you. You are no longer bracing for impact. You are grounded. You are no longer reacting from old wounds. You are responding from healed truth. God has not removed difficulty. He has transformed your posture within it. You are now able to trust yourself again, not blindly, but wisely. Discernment guides your confidence. Humility guards your strength. This balance is rare and precious. God has cultivated it patiently. Beloved soul, this sealing also brings freedom from self-explanation. You no longer feel compelled to justify your choices or defend your boundaries. You are at peace with alignment, even when misunderstood. God's approval steadies you more than agreement ever could. As this journey closes, remember this. Rebuilding does not end here. It stabilizes here. Growth will continue, but it will no longer feel like repair. It will feel like expansion from a solid center. What God rebuilt will support what He releases next. I, Michael, stand as guardian over this integrated season. Nothing God restored will unravel. Nothing healed will reopen. Nothing aligned will drift. Heaven has completed this work with intention and care. And now, let us seal this rebuilding with a prayer, offered gently before the throne of grace. Beloved Father of Light, I come before you with a quiet and open heart, grateful for the work you have done within me, and trusting the work you are still completing. Thank you for rebuilding what was worn, healing what was wounded, and restoring what was lost in silence. Where I once relied on my own strength, teach me to rest in yours. Where fear once guided my steps, let truth and peace now lead me forward. Cover my heart with your presence, and steady my thoughts with your wisdom. Guard my spirit from haste, confusion, and unnecessary burden. Help me to walk gently with myself as you walk faithfully with me. When the future feels uncertain, anchor me in trust. When waiting returns, fill it with hope. When movement is required, give me courage without anxiety. Bless the work of my hands and the intentions of my heart. Align my desires with your will and my decisions with your truth. Let my life reflect your goodness in quiet ways that bring peace to others and honor to you. I release control, surrender outcomes, and place my path fully into your care. Remain near to me, guide me daily, and establish my steps according to your purpose. I receive your peace, I trust your timing, and I rest in your unfailing love. Beloved Father of Light, I thank you for rebuilding me with patience and truth. Integrate what you have restored, so that I may live whole and aligned. Teach me to move with wisdom, to rest with trust, and to serve with humility. Guard what you have healed and strengthen what you have established. Prepare me for what lies ahead, without haste or fear. I place my future in your hands and remain where you have planted me. I receive your peace and walk forward in faith. Amen.